Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Across the Park podcast. It's been a while. It has been a while. A few weeks off for us. Millsy's had loads of stuff going on at home. He's got a new house, actually, so congratulations to Millsy. I've just been chocker with work, but we're back on today and delighted to be joined by massive Evertonian and friend of the show, Colin Flood.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the invite.
No, appreciate it, mate. Appreciate you taking the time out. I haven't actually asked you this off air, but did you go to the game on Monday?
No, I never went, mate. No. Obviously watched the game, but no, never went.
Well, that is where we're going to start in a moment. Just before we do, just further to my previous points, we have got a lot of stuff coming up. Don't want to make it a big false dawn for us. We're going to be doing a lot more online at the moment because it's a little bit easier for us to get the shows out there. But we've got some exciting stuff coming up. So appreciate anyone who's continued to follow us during our periods of absence, and yeah, hopefully you'll stick with us. But yeah, without further ado, Carl, we're going to start with the Sunderland game. So most of this show is going to be a review of that game, a 1-1 draw at the Stadium of Light, which I think on paper for the neutral and certainly going into the game, you would have took a draw there. They've had a very good start to the season. They've got some decent scalps on the resume already, flying high in the league. I think a win on Monday would have seen them go second, so that tells you all you need to know about their start. But I mean, it's fair to say we come out of the blocks really well.
I thought we had a good 20-minute spell, didn't we, in the first half, where I think probably typical of our season so far. If we're just not putting our chances away, and the danger with that is always that teams are going to come back at you. But I thought, honestly, there was a 20-minute spell in that game where I thought we nick another goal here to 2-0. That could kick us on a little bit more. But I think we've been playing in periods, spits and spurts all season, which is a bit frustrating. But it's also, again, you just alluded to it before, guys. Would you have took a point before the game? I think most of us cynically would have said, well, a point is a point, at the end of the day. But within that spell, I think we had the momentum there, but I think that the finishing's just let us down again.
Yeah, it's become. I mean, to be honest, I said it really early in the season, even when we started well. I was like, neither of the strikers I'm convinced in. I mean, you've been I guess probably more appreciative of Beto's abilities than a lot of Evertonians in terms of what he does give us. There's also no doubt about what he doesn't give us. And there are parts of Tierno Barry's play, which in the first half, you think, he's neat and tidy. He's got, he's decent technically on the ball. He's got a lot of things that Beto hasn't. But, that there's no two ways about it. You can't play as a number 9 and a lone number 9 and not hit the target. And he hasn't even hit the target. He hasn't made the keeper make a save in the 360 minutes that he's played so far this season, which is just remarkably poor, isn't it?
No, I think the closest thing I've come to, I mean, I know they had at home against the Palace, and the overhead kick. They're probably the closest. But I mean, when you look back over some of the more simpler chances he's had, finishing isn't one of his strong points. But I mean, I know we'll probably jump into it in terms of like how Moyes is setting the lads up to play. It suits Beto more than Barry for me. I think there's a lot more long term with Barry, but I think Beto, you can obviously see he's struggling with confidence in front of goal massively. And if we're going to get goals, it's coming from our midfield. I think that's acutely fair, like a point to make. And I just think, at the minute, guys, it's as much as you want to stay behind the players and encourage them, it's becoming quite daunting. I think at home against Fulham on Saturday, that'll be tough for him, because I think if he misses his first chance again, it's only going to draw more pressure and more frustration from the crowds. But he has missed some really, basic finishing, especially in the 6-yard box. There's been a few. I am trying to support him in every angle I can, because you've got.
So you saw Beto or Barry?
More Beto, yeah. But I think with Barry, again, guys, I think for me the system doesn't suit him as a lone striker. He's probably someone who plays more, which I think he may do, coming into the January window, play off the wing a bit more. If he gets a recognised striker, if Ndiaye goes to the Cup of Nations or something like that, or injuries kick in. I
Mm.
think that's where he might see himself. I think Moyes might trust him outside a little bit more than the lone striker, but we are really struggling at the minute, mate, to put anything away. Headers, even tap-ins, it is getting a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, well let's just look specifically at the Sunderland game, and as I say, we'll work back from there. We made a good start. Outstanding goal from Ndiaye. We can only hope that the injury is a minor one, which it does seem to be.
Mm.
But I was made up for him because he's put in some very good performances this season. He obviously has got a few goals to his name, but I don't think he's really got that standout goal that some of his performances and some of his contributions have deserved. But that for me was in keeping of the quality of the player, to be honest.
100%. The only danger is that if we don't strengthen,
It'll hurt.
yeah, and he'll want Champions League footy and everything else that comes with
You know
them
what?
performances.
I'll take that. I'll take that. To be honest, and listen, I take that. Don't take it the wrong way. I'm not saying I'll take losing our best players, because that's not what you want. But if your best players become courted because they're producing things like that on a regular basis, then you know what? You wish them well at that point, as long as you get the right money for them, as long as they conduct themselves well during that period of interest and they're not disrespectful. That's fine. And I think, unfortunately, the position we're in at the moment and in the league and points tallies and trophies and all that, we're not in a position that we can satisfy the ambitions of players like him. But all I would like to see is more of that. If we, between now and the end of the season, and sticks was at the end of the season, we get 5, 6, 7 moments like that, then fair play to him. He goes with my best wishes.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I went to City a couple of weeks ago, and again, he's having them individual moments again, like the other night, and I'm just glad he's starting to convert more, into goals as well. So that's a big help. But I've been overly impressed with him, mate. Whether it's his tracking back as well. That's impressed me. And very Moyes light to have his wingers like that, but going the other way, he's finding a new level of fitness for me as well. He's not. He's getting past people, beating them, and then going again. Where I think last year under maybe Dyche, he didn't do that enough. But I've been super impressed with him, mate. And it's definitely the one I look to for the goals at the moment. For getting us, getting that goal or two that we probably will only get each game. It'll probably come from the likes of him, or maybe a Dewsbury or something like that from a midfield. But I've loved every minute watching him at the minute. Some of the things he's doing, it's exciting, and it's on the edge of your seat stuff, innit? So
it is a joy to watch. And if you're a young fan, and my youngest is 5, and he's into his footy, he loves playing footy, and it's been a while. And I've said this, I think, about him since Moyes really come in, because as you hinted at there under Dyche, he was playing a lot deeper. Wasn't really maybe doing as much of his work individually as we'd like to have seen. It was almost stifled, wasn't he? But the minute Moyes come in, he played 20 yards further up the pitch, and suddenly I likened him to Kanchelskis, and I remember being, not far off my son's age when Kanchelskis was at Everton, and I would just go to watch him, and I'd watch him through the game, and what's he doing now? And when he gets the ball, he's going to make something happen, and he's going to be explosive, and he's going to be energetic, and he's going to be enthusiastic, and he's going to create moments of magic, which we've been desperately short of, I think, as a fan base for a long time.
I don't know whether you've noticed as well, guys, a lot of the games, the way teams are setting up against them now, they're doubling up. So that means there's a space elsewhere. That's a big compliment to him, in particularly. So I think for me, the more he continues to perform like that, he's only going to benefit us, short term to medium term with the results. But again, he's adding goals to it now. So that's the good thing for me with his performances.
Definitely. I think just to look at the opposite flank, it's not to downplay Grealish's contribution, because he's still been an outstanding, addition to the squad. Hasn't really hit the heights in recent weeks. He comes in and out of the game a bit more than I think I would like. But I think he's another player to a certain extent with Barry, that because we haven't got that focal point, that striker who's going to put those chances away. I think a lot of his work is almost going unrewarded, because he's getting them balls into areas, or he's getting to the touchline as he does in a style where it's stop, start, get to the touchline, or cut back, get that cross in. And because we haven't got that clinical finisher, his work's almost become undone a little bit, hasn't it?
100%. I mean, the amount of times he's hit that byline, and looked to cut back and hasn't been able to because either the movement hasn't been there or, it's just he's had to delay to get it in there. Yeah, you can see it. It looks frustrating. I mean, from where I sit in the south stand, you can see him a lot. Obviously, when he's getting his chin up a lot and he's looking inside and he's just too far away, either better or. Um,
Right.
but what he is looking for more, I've noticed recently, is more Drewsbury Hall. Because if he's not seeing that, he's having to connect with. But then you're talking the edge of the box, then, aren't you? He's cutting back a lot. I just love, like you said there, the point of the striker, almost a Yelovich when he used to get in front of the defender in the 6-yard box. I think that's purpose built for someone like him. Someone who attacks on the front foot in the 6-yard box. But I do, yeah. I think teams are probably giving him a lot more attention. Obviously, from the start of the season because his assists were well up. But I think they're probably at the moment he's not as effective as Ndiaye on the other side. I think maybe because of the way the strikers are setting up and getting themselves in that 6-yard box. But it is unnoticed. But again, he's a dangerous player, guys, to have on the pitch. He's one of those can just create something out of nothing type of moments, Jack. But yeah, I think we need to convey it a lot more to keep sort of keep him on the level we need him to. But putting chances or putting some of them chances away that he's creating.
Yeah, definitely. Well, obviously, outside of the first half an hour, you got to say that the miss from Tieno Barry was a turning point. I think Sky illustrates it quite well in terms of the number of shots that were on goal after that miss. I think Sunderland had like 10 on the bounce after that because they clearly got almost where it was a rocket up the arse through us missing that chance and thinking, we could have been 2-0 down there, or whether it was just, it was a wake-up call for them. But they certainly, the tide turns a little bit from there. And we found it difficult to just get a grip on the game after that. And that was almost as concerning as missing the chance itself, is the lack of game management from the players out there. And, the ability to go, okay, well, how do we reset? How do we change this? You look at the impact that Granit Xhaka had, from the middle of the pitch, and we didn't really have that same type of influence. What were your thoughts on how that changed and how we maybe could have overcome that?
Yeah, I think if you look at all the stats over the previous games as well, including the Sunderland one, we don't hold much possession, and the chances that we do create, I don't think there's many teams we've created more goal scoring chances than. So we've got to take them when they're there, and you could see the energy sucked out of them a little bit because they'd worked in that spell and they created quite a few. But it was almost like you say a turning point in the game where they got a rocket up the backside a little bit. They came out a little bit more, had a scare from going 2-0 down. And then we struggled then. And you can see, I can see it in the way we played. We weren't going to create many more chances. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, again, you say games, chances turn games. That was, for me, the turning point in the game. You can see his reaction to it and everything. But also when you look back, you see the players in the background, the midfielders in particular, you've got heads in arms, so it was a turning point. I guess the point I'm making there is that we won't create many chances, as a team with the personnel that we've got. So it's even more important that we convert them. But it was a massive turning point. You can see it was like the energy just sucked out of the group. And if you watch the next 5 or 6 minutes after that, it was all Sunderland's possession, chances. Yeah. They were coming at us. They were a bit more direct, and they pushed us back a good 20, 30 yards.
Yeah, they did. It was overwhelming, to be fair, and I think going back to the start, where I said I thought you'd have took a draw at the start of the game. I think once they got on top, and certainly deep into the second half, I was up for taking a draw, and I think the manager, you could see the manager was almost looking to get out of there as well. I do want to. I mean, the goal was one of them. I think it comes so quickly out of. It was like the players that can go out of the dressing room. I don't think Tarkowski would like to find himself in a position like that very often. For me, he's far too deep in his penalty area. I think if you're that deep and that close to the goal, and the ball is hit that centrally, you should be getting out the way as opposed to trying to get a foot on it. But on another day, and he is normally so effective at blocking the ball, and he does that quite a lot for us. So it's hard to be too critical. I think it's a slightly fortuitous goal in that sense. And I don't, look, they didn't create a huge deal of clear-cut chances after that. There was a lot of half chances, a lot of shots on goal. So I think the result itself was the fair one, but I think going back to it, it was more the fact that we just struggled to turn the tide. Once they were on top, there was only really going to be one winner. As far as I was concerned, what I want to come on to now is, and it's going on to more of a theme, is the changes. I mean, I was one of the unfortunate people who tuned into Everton's under-23s game against Bradford in the international break, and Dwight McNeil played then. He was as ineffective as any Everton player or any person on the pitch, to be honest. Didn't look like a player who was playing 2 leagues down effectively. He looked like someone who was devoid of confidence and pretty much devoid of quality, which we've seen at times for Dwight McNeil and Everton shirt. What did you make of that change? Am I being harsh in saying that was a pretty strange?
It was bizarre. Yeah, it was a strange one. I mean, it was almost like the old Moyes, wasn't it? Shut shop. He's put like a more defensive, if you can have a call it that, attacking midfielder, and he almost wanted them to sit in and defend more than kind of go for the game at 1-1. But considering his lack of game time and involvement, in previous games, I'll be honest, guys, I didn't even know he was on the bench until when he was coming off. The kids had told me it's going to be. The thought never even come to my head, and I was like, what's he bringing him on for? Because I think we've moved past that. That was the reason why. I thought we'd well moved past that particular type of player being in that system. But again, what summed him up for me was I think it was literally as soon as he comes on, there was a wayward pass from him and the right back.
Ghana.
Yeah, and as he's played the pass, it was just his body language and his reaction to it all. Again, it smelled of someone with no confidence, and pretty much I think might have his eyes set on something slightly different, in the long term, short to long term. Sorry, but it was a strange one for me because I think when you're using your subs, mate, they've got to be impact players. They're going to come on for it, to impact the game, and I had no confidence in it. And me and the kids, we were all sat around, scratching our heads, just thinking, how's he brought him on there? It's quite a negative substitution for me, and that was and I think everyone I've spoken to has relatively said the same thing. It was like, why has he brought him on? It almost like, again, he settled for a draw, which again, it's a point, but it was just the manner in which he done it. He had other subs on the bench that could have impacted the game in a different way. I think that was the strange decision for me, but I couldn't believe. I was in a bit of disbelief. I was scratching my head thinking, why did you brought him on?
No, definitely, and it was just as much. I mean, you touch on the fact it was maybe a change, bringing on someone who was a bit more defensive. Maybe from his point of view, it was like, okay, he's got a bit more experience. He knows what the plan is for me, and then he might be able to manage the game. But because of his lack of match fitness and sharpness, he was so off the ball as well. Balls were just going 100%. Past him, and he didn't even know it was there. So it was actually more of a risk to us to have him on the pitch. I thought it was a bizarre change, and I think when when the results aren't going for you, which they haven't done recently, and I'm not leveling all of the results and everything at the manager, because as we both said, there's been a lot of missed chances, but I think that almost it welcomes unnecessary criticism when you make a change like that and bring on a player who has been so short of action before that, particularly when you've got Mill and Roll, and you've got Charlie Alcaraz, and you've got
Diblin was on
Diblin, who we've obviously spent a lot of money on. It's not only the message sends out to the fans, it's the message sends out to those players to go, well, actually, I'm going to bring him on before you as well. So I wasn't sure about that myself. And
that was the one, guys. I mean, the Mill and Roll was the one. I almost thought it was him coming on. No, as they were getting changed, and it was our Jose who mentioned it, and I was just like, I thought, no, it's Michalenko's injured. That's what I said. He must be putting him on left back, and he wasn't. But the mail and roll one for me was the most logical one. You know, from what we've seen so far, you know, he covers the grounds in midfield. He's quite conservative in how he plays, and Dibbling might have been the other option if we were chasing it at 2-1 down to try and be a bit more attacking. But it just, I think it stunk of something which, you know,
you could have easily put Dewsbury Hall out to the right, as you said, and put Mail and Roll in the centre if you weren't sure about putting them out wide. But the fact that they were pumping so many long throws into the box, bringing a big player on there is only going to help. A set play was probably their most likely way of getting a goal, whether it was a corner or a throw in. So it made so much sense to just the, you know, again, just to the regular viewer. You don't have to be an analyst to know that. And it was a very, very peculiar one. I think we were somewhat fortunate to get away with that because it also put us more on the back foot. We couldn't then break. We were obviously quite deep at that point, but everyone every Evertonian knows, I'm sure David Moyes knows, that, you know, McNeil's probably his weakest point is his physicality and his lack of physicality and his ability to get up the pitch quickly. And we were never going to get that from him. So we lost something in that sense as well.
Yeah. No, okay, 100%.
Just want to touch on before we jump off, Col. You know, we both agreed on the striker issues we're having. I don't think the Everton fans need us to agree on that as well. But there's a suggestion here that there should be a bit of rotation in the midfield. What would you do? We're going into the Fulham game, as you say. It's a big game. Every game is a big game now when you're on a run like we're on, particularly when you're playing at home against a team that, listen, they're a good side. We know Marco Silva well. We know he'll be coming here to win. There's no two ways about that. What would you change going into the weekend?
Do you know what I'd really like to see? I'd like to see, as good as Garner Gay's been for us, I'd like to see Dewsbury Hall and James Garner as the two midfielders, and Ndiaye in the 10 and Dibbling out wide, you know, or, you know, Roll outside, and then obviously Striker and Grealish. I just think that when that system with them two, but where we break down a lot is when Garner Gay gets on the ball, he can't move the ball as well as probably a Dewsbury Hall or a James Garner. And James Garner, I've been hugely impressed with him this year in that system. He's been absolutely amazing. But I just think we lacked the other type of player like him alongside him.
Bit of dynamism as well from deeper, isn't it?
Yeah, I just think getting on, you know, he'll link the play more from the back to the, you know, the strikers better if we have Dewsbury Hall in that midfield area with him. But I think that for me that would be what I'd go with. But I just don't. I think he's still conservative, Moyes, in the breakdown of play, and I think that's what Garner Gay does really well, doesn't he? Breaks play up, you know, and he covers well. But I'd like to see a bit more creativity out of that extra player in there. And
particularly because, as you said, we're not getting the goals from the forward, so we need it from somewhere else. And
100%, yeah.
I think if he's that concerned about, you know, Garner Gay being in the team, you know, he's made that change a few times now where he's brought O'Brien off and put Garner right back. Do that then from the start and give us, because Garner can then because what we're not getting at the moment from the two fullbacks, and that's something we're going to have to address in the transfer market, is any type of attacking impetus whatsoever. Mykolenko, you know, we're not going to be able to turn Mykolenko into Leighton Baines as much as we you know, Leighton's probably trying to. He's just not that player. He's a left-sided centre-back who's playing at left-back, effectively. So I think we're going to have to accept that. But equally, then on the other side, we've got another player who's a centre-back playing right-back. So it needs to come from somewhere. We need another body to be breaking into that attacking third and creating opportunities for us, because it's not going to come from those forwards.
Do you think, guys, that's why he plays Garner Gay, because he knows how vulnerable we are to the counter with that back four? That I
don't know. I mean, that's an interesting point, because if you're going to play four defenders like a flat back four, you don't need a water carrier, a Garner Gay, because you've got four players back there. Like if you think about back in the day when those, you know, Makaleles and Kantes and all that had become really popular, it was when the two centre-backs had split, the full-backs would go high, and your defensive midfielder tucks in to make a back three. So when they counter, you've got, you know, 3v2 or 3v3 at the very least. Because we're playing two full-backs that are so narrow and so defensive, you could almost go, well, you know what, spew it. Like one of you will go forward, but we'll never have two of you going forward. So you'll come across, and that was the old way you used to defend in the 90s. Your right back goes forwards, your left back tucks in, and you have a back three. And then it becomes fashionable for your Ghana Gay to drop in between the two centre backs. Or back in 15 years ago, it was Gareth Barry who done it first of all under Martinez, and at the end of David Moyes' reign, he started to do it with Lee Carsley when he had Coleman and Baines. But we haven't got those two attacking fullbacks. So you make a good point. We don't really need a Gay in this system because we haven't got attacking fullbacks. So it is a waste of a player, and therefore you'd always either got too many players in the defensive third, more than you need, and therefore you're not going to be able to overload people and teams in the attacking third. And again, you make up a good point earlier about we got a lot of success early in the season from Dewsbury Hall running in behind, and we did earlier in the game against Sunderland where Grealish is sliding Dewsbury Hall. He was kind of underlapping Grealish. But the minute that Sunderland got onto that and put an extra player back there, it was gone. And because we didn't push that extra player onto them in return, it was they just completely nullified our attacks. So
I just think the way that I've watched them play, recently, you highlighting all those key points. It's as Moyes just kind of set them up not to be too exposed, and Michalenko's probably the furthest one. He cuts inside Grealish a lot for the way they've set them up. But I just think, like you there, where you've just highlighted, there's extra players there. So why don't you just have a midfielder in there who can attack more, who can be a bit more creative? And if you've noticed most of the subs, he brings another defensive midfielder on for the defensive midfielder, and it's like just the same system, same style. They're onto it, so to speak. But I mean, I could say that, but we get a penalty against Palace through the old midfield.
But it was Itabunam having to drive on, though, wasn't it? Itabunam's got a lot more of a he's got more of a willingness to run beyond Itabunam. He's got, obviously he's younger, more of an engine, and he always has been a bit more willing to run. And I think that's probably to his detriment in terms of why he doesn't play more games, because Moyes is worried about what he might perceive as lack of discipline. Yeah. But it was Itabunam's willingness to run in behind that actually got him that penalty.
I just think, going back to that point, mate, that having Dewsbury Hall probably a little bit deeper with James Garner just allows us to get another attacking player in the 10. A goal scorer, so to speak, on the pitch. That might just open the spot up on the other side, the right to Diblin or Roll. But that would be my view on it, mate.
If you're going to flick the coin then, because I think this is what David Moyes does now, who are you playing up front? Because it's literally one starts, the other one comes off after 60 minutes. Does it matter?
I'll be honest, if he was to do that shake that I had, I'd play Barry. I wouldn't play Beto. I just think
you've got Ndiaye who can run in behind and can occupy that central position if you need him to.
I know. I mean, a funny analogy to it, mate, but it's just stuck with me now. It's like the fella who sits next to me now on the match. He said he's just like he's like a horse at the Grand National that goes loose. With no jockey on. And it's horrible. He just said everyone's trying to find a pass with him, but he's just literally all over the place, and you don't know what direction he's going in next. And it's horrible. It's stuck in my head. But now I'm looking at him when he plays and thinking, Jesus Christ, how's he just fell over that?
Well, the first when Grealish made his debut against Leeds away, that kind of sums it up. Grealish does zigzags in between a few players and goes to play a pass to Beto, and Beto just runs away, doesn't he?
Runs away. Yeah, I know. And I think that that's the bit where I think the transfer window can't come quick enough for him. In particular to take the pressure off him as well. And like the international break would be a good opportunity for us to not focus too much on him. But we're only going to score goals, guys, from set pieces or from our midfielders, I think. And the more creative players we get on, I think in that position, I think the more opportunities we'll have to convert.
The mad thing is, come January, and this might really force the hand of the board and the transfer committee, whoever is on that, is Beto's probably going to go to the African nations. So it literally does leave us on the bone. So even if he was scoring goals, which he isn't, he's not going to be there anyway. and you literally, you wouldn't have in the summer, even in an optimistic mind, you wouldn't have been expecting Tierno Barry to be, ripping it up and scoring 8-9 goals, because he is a kid, and he's literally gone almost from Belgium to the Premier League, because he was only in Spain for about 6-7 months. So it has to happen in January. We have to start identifying that player now, and it doesn't have to be I don't personally think we need some 50-60 million pound striker. We need an experienced forward to just lead the line and do the basics well.
Yeah, I mean, it's been muted, hasn't it, Ivan Toney a lot. I think I'm on the fence with it myself. I'm not really sure. I mean, the ambition to go to Saudi and play rather than stay, in a decent league in Europe. I don't know. But we've got to look for something similar short term. I don't think we're going to find a long term solution in January, but just someone who can put a bit more impact, into the group, up top. But we're desperate, aren't we?
Yeah, I guess you can only hope that Solanke comes back in at Spurs and starts to find some form, and then you've got another few forwards in there that are fighting for a place, and then Richarlison becomes surplus to requirements, because even the 10-15 minutes that we've seen him against us, he looked a million times better than what we've got up there at the moment.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, it could be. I mean, our kids will be made up if he does.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be too disappointed myself. I mean, long term, it's probably not the answer, but certainly it's better than what we've got. But anyway, Colin, listen, thanks for your time. Before we go, give us a prediction for Saturday.
2-1 Everton.
2-1 Everton. Any scorers? Ndiaye again.
I feel we'll get one from a set piece, because I know Fulham have struggled from set pieces. And then I'm hoping it's going to be one of the three across the middle. I think midfielders. I think it's got Grealish could sneak one. It just depends on how they protect Tete on the right back. I think he'll get a very frosty reception anyway. So I think Grealish will probably come into his own a little bit, I think, in a spell, and I think he'll convert. So 2-1 Everton, Grealish to score.
Brilliant. Love it, Col. As always, thanks for your time, mate. Appreciate it. For anyone watching, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again next week, or we may be back with an instant match reaction on Saturday. But again, appreciate you all tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Got plenty coming up. And as always, up the toffees.